Welcome back to LPBW Update, your number one source for the exclusive theories and insider reports that you won't find anywhere else. What you are about to hear is a story that has been developing behind the scenes, a chilling tale of digital deception that threatens to shatter the very foundation of the Roloff family. We're talking about a shadow war fought not in the fields of Roloff farms, but on the glowing screens of our phones and computers. We're talking about a digital ghost, an imposter crafted with terrifying precision, designed to systematically dismantle Amy Roloff's reputation brick by brick. And the most shocking part of this report, the person allegedly pulling the strings isn't some anonymous internet troll or a disgruntled fan. Our sources are pointing to someone inside the circle, someone with the access, the motive, and the technical skill to pull it off. Caryn Chandler. Before we dive into this bombshell report, a story so twisted it could be a Hollywood movie, please take a moment to hit that like button. It tells YouTube you want more content like this, and it really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, subscribe to LPBW Update and ring that notification bell so you never miss a breaking story. We have so much more to uncover, and you'll want to be here for every single revelation. All right, let's get into it. To understand the gravity of what we're about to discuss, you have to understand the modern battlefield. Today, a person's identity is intrinsically linked to their online presence. For a public figure like Amy Roloff, her social media is her brand, her connection to her fans, her source of income, and her public voice. To hijack that voice is to hijack her very identity. And according to the whispers we're hearing from sources close to the family, that is precisely what happened. The story begins, as so many Roloff conflicts do, with the farm. The tension between Amy, Matt, and Caryn has been a constant undercurrent for years, but the sale of the north side of the property ignited a new kind of firestorm. While the public saw the arguments and the awkward family gatherings, behind the scenes, a different kind of resentment was allegedly brewing. Our sources indicate that Caryn Chandler, despite her long-standing relationship with Matt and her integral role at the farm, has felt perpetually on the outside, forever locked in a battle for legitimacy. She was tired of being seen as the homewrecker, the woman who replaced the family matriarch. She wanted to be seen as the new matriarch of Roloff Farms, respected and unchallenged. But Amy's continued presence, her popularity with a loyal segment of the fan base, and her vocal opinions about the farm's legacy were a constant thorn in her side. Caryn, from her years managing the pumpkin season's online ticketing, social media promotions, and website, is far more tech-savvy than many give her credit for. She understands the power of a digital narrative. She knows that in the court of public opinion, perception is reality. And it's here, according to our insider reports, that a dark and calculated plan began to form. She wouldn't confront Amy face to face. No, that would be too messy, too direct. Instead, she would become Amy. She would create a digital ghost to do her dirty work for her. The first step was the creation of the weapon, a new Instagram account. The name was a stroke of manipulative genius. Amy J.R. Roloff, that real. The underscore between the J and Roloff was a subtle, almost unnoticeable difference from Amy's real handle. But the addition of the word real was a masterstroke. It's a classic tactic used by impersonators to sow confusion and lend an air of false authenticity, preying on casual followers who wouldn't look too closely. Caryn, working late at night from the farm office, allegedly began to build this digital clone. She meticulously scoured the internet, lifting publicly available photos of Amy, pictures from Amy's own Instagram, Facebook, photos from news articles, even old family pictures from the show's early days that had been shared online. She populated the new profile, creating a convincing mosaic of Amy's life. The bio was copied almost verbatim from Amy's real account. To a casual observer, it was indistinguishable from the real thing. It looked legitimate. It felt legitimate. The digital ghost was born. With the stage set, the chaos campaign began. This was not a random series of attacks. It was a targeted, psychological operation designed to hit Amy where it would hurt the most: her relationships with her family, her fans, and her business partners. The first target was Audrey Roloff. The relationship between Zach and Tori and Matt and Caryn was already strained, a fact well documented and known to the public. Caryn allegedly saw this as the perfect fracture point to exploit. From the Amy J.R. Roloff / real account, she sent a direct message to Tori. It wasn't overtly hostile, but it was dripping with passive-aggressive poison. The message, according to our sources, read something like this: Tori, I've been seeing you and Zach spending more time at the farm lately, and I saw you liked Korean's last post. I just have to say, it's disappointing to see you siding with her on the farm issues after everything our family has been through. I thought you, of all people, would understand my position. Let that sink in. The message is designed to do two things. First, it makes Amy seem paranoid and controlling, monitoring her daughter-in-law's social media activity. Second, it puts Tori in an impossible position, forcing her to defend a simple, innocent action, like liking a post. It creates a sense of drama where none existed. Tori, receiving this message, would be completely blindsided. She'd see her mother-in-law's face, her name, and a message that felt both personal and deeply hurtful. The digital ghost had drawn its first blood, planting a seed of discord right in the heart of the family. But Caryn was just getting started. The next target was the fan base itself. She knew that the narrative among the fans was powerful, and she needed to poison the well. She identified a prominent Roloff fan blogger, someone who ran a popular fan page with thousands of dedicated followers. We'll call this blog Roloff Roundup. Posing as Amy, Caryn sent the blogger a long, rambling message crafted to sound like a desperate, secret plea. It was filled with vague but explosive language. Please, the message began, I need your help. The real story of what happened with the farm isn't being told. There are things the network won't show you. I was forced out in more ways than one. They are trying to erase my legacy. I'm trusting you to tell my fans the truth about how I was really treated. This is a masterclass in manipulation. It doesn't provide any concrete evidence, so it can't be easily disproven. But it uses emotionally charged words like forced out and erase my legacy to create a powerful victim-centric narrative. The blogger, believing they have a direct secret line to Amy Roloff, would feel an obligation to share this exclusive. The White Insider report would spread like wildfire through the fan community, painting Matt and Caryn as villains, and more subtly, making Amy appear unstable and conspiratorial, someone who communicates in cryptic back-channel messages instead of speaking her mind openly. The digital ghost was now successfully manipulating public perception. The third prong of the attack was aimed at Amy's professional life. Amy has built a successful brand around her cooking and her public appearances. She often partners with small businesses and brands that align with her wholesome image. Caryn, through her management role at the farm, would have been aware of the types of offers that came in. She allegedly noticed a small, local, Oregon-based home goods company had reached out to Amy's real account via DM, offering a modest but respectable partnership deal to promote their new line of kitchenware. It was a perfect fit for Amy. Before the real Amy or her assistant could even properly review the offer, the digital ghost sprang into action. Responding from the Amy J. Roloff real account, Caryn, as Amy, sent a reply that was breathtakingly rude and unprofessional. Your offer is frankly insulting, the message read. I am a nationally recognized television personality. My brand is worth far more than what you are offering. Please do not contact me again with such a lowball proposal. It's a waste of my time. The bridge was not just burned, it was nuked from orbit. The small business owner, who was likely a fan and excited about the prospect of working with Amy, would have been shocked and appalled. They would see Amy Roloff not as a kind, family-oriented woman, but as an arrogant, out-of-touch celebrity. The story of the rude celebrity would undoubtedly spread through the local business community. The digital ghost was now actively sabotaging Amy's ability to earn a living and destroying her reputation for kindness and professionalism. The real-world consequences began to mount, leaving Amy in a state of utter confusion. The first sign that something was terribly wrong was the phone call from Tori. Amy was in her kitchen testing a new recipe when her phone rang. She saw Tori's picture and answered with a smile, expecting a friendly chat. But Tori's voice was tense. "Mom, what was that weird DM you sent me?" Amy was baffled. "DM? Honey, I haven't sent you any DMs today." Tori sounded frustrated. "The one about me liking Karen's post, about siding with her, it just felt really aggressive and unlike you." Amy's heart sank. She insisted, "Tori, I swear to you, I have no idea what you're talking about. I would never send you something like that." But the damage was done. A sliver of doubt had been inserted into their relationship. Amy could deny it, but Tori had seen the message with her own eyes from an account that looked exactly like her mother-in-law's. A few days later, the second blow landed. Amy was at her local supermarket, a place where she was a familiar and welcome face. She saw the owner of the home goods company she had supposedly insulted. Amy smiled and went to say hello, but the woman shot her a look of pure ice, turned her back, and walked away without a word. Amy stood there in the middle of the aisle, humiliated and bewildered. What had she done? The feeling of being targeted, of being misunderstood, began to gnaw at her. Her world felt like it was tilting off its axis. Her reputation, which she had spent decades building, was being eroded by an invisible enemy. The comments on her real social media posts started to change. "Amy, why are you being so mean to that blogger?" one would read. "I heard you turned down a local company. Not a good look," said another. She was being accused of things she hadn't done, and she had no way to fight back because she didn't even know where the attacks were coming from. She was fighting a ghost, her digital ghost. This is where the story takes a critical turn. The architect of this chaos, Caryn, had made one crucial miscalculation. She underestimated the social media savvy of another Roloff family member, Audrey. Audrey Roloff has built a massive online brand with her husband, Jeremy. She is not just a casual social media user. She is a power user. She understands analytics, engagement metrics, branding, and the subtle nuances of an online persona better than anyone else in the family. And she started to notice things that didn't add up. She saw the fan blogger's post about Amy's secret message, and her first thought wasn't, "Wow, that's juicy gossip." Her first thought was, "That doesn't sound like Amy." The tone was off. Amy's public writing style is warm, a little folksy, and sometimes includes a quirky turn of phrase. The message the blogger quoted was more clinical, more pointed. It was like a caricature of an angry Amy, not the real thing. Audrey's suspicion was piqued. She did what any good digital detective would do. She went to the source. She found the Amy J. Roloff real account. At first glance, it was convincing, but Audrey looked closer. She noticed the posting times. Many of the most aggressive and bizarre comments left by this fake account were posted late at night, often between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Pacific time. That wasn't Amy's pattern. Amy was an early to bed, early to rise person, but Matt and Caryn were known to be night owls, often staying up late in the farmhouse. That was the first red flag. The second red flag was the content itself. The fake account never posted simple, happy things. It never just shared a recipe or a picture of the grandkids without some sort of angle. Every post, every comment seemed designed to stir up controversy, to poke at old wounds, or to paint Amy as a victim or an aggressor. It was a feed fueled by pure negativity. Audrey, who curates her own feed with relentless positivity, recognized this as a deliberate strategy, not an authentic reflection of a person's life. Her suspicion growing into a cold certainty, Audrey knew she needed more than just a gut feeling. She needed data. This is where, according to our technical sources, Audrey used her resources as a major social media influencer. There are advanced analytics tools available to content creators of her stature. Tools that can provide information about follower demographics, engagement patterns, and sometimes, with a little help, technical metadata about suspicious accounts. It's a gray area, but for someone trying to protect their family, it was a necessary step. She allegedly ran a technical check on the Amy J.R. Roloff Reel profile. She wasn't looking for a name or an address, but something much more fundamental: the digital fingerprint of its creator, the IP address. What she found sent a chill down her spine. The report came back with data pointing to an IP address associated not with a common cable provider like Comcast or a phone company like Verizon, but with a satellite internet provider. This was the critical clue. Satellite internet is used primarily in remote rural areas where traditional broadband infrastructure isn't available. Places exactly like the sprawling, slightly isolated Roloff farms. It wasn't definitive proof, but it was a digital, flashing arrow pointing directly at the one place Caryn Chandler spent most of her time. The pool of suspects had shrunk from millions of people on the internet to a handful of people on the farm. The digital ghost now had a potential home address. Audrey knew she was in dangerous territory. Accusing Caryn based on an IP address alone would be explosive and could be denied. She could claim someone was spoofing her network or that it was a coincidence. Audrey needed undeniable, irrefutable proof. She needed to catch the ghost in the act. And so, with Amy's frantic cooperation, she devised a trap, a digital sting operation designed to expose the impersonator once and for all. The plan was simple but brilliant. It relied on one key vulnerability of the person behind the fake account. They only knew what the public knew. They weren't inside Amy's head. They didn't share her private memories. First, Audrey had Amy post something on her real, verified Instagram account. It had to be a very specific personal story, but one that was completely new to the public. Amy decided to post a throwback photo of her and the kids when they were very young on a family trip. The caption she wrote was a heartfelt story about a specific memory from that day. She told a story about how, on that trip to the Oregon coast, little Zach had lost his favorite blue bucket in the waves, and he was so heartbroken that Matt had spent an hour building him an elaborate sandcastle to cheer him up, which they called King Zachary's Castle. The story was sweet, personal, and, most importantly, filled with specific details that only the family would know. The post went live, and almost immediately, the Amy J.R. Roloff /Real account liked it. The ghost was watching. Now it was time to spring the trap. Audrey, using a separate anonymous account she created just for this purpose, sent a direct message to the fake Amy J.R. Roloff /Real profile. She posed as a sympathetic longtime fan. Her message was carefully worded. "Hi, Amy. I just saw your beautiful post about the trip to the coast. It was so touching. I think I remember you telling a story on the show once about that same trip, about how Zach lost his little red bucket and you all built him that amazing sandcastle at Prince Zachary's palace to make him feel better. Such a precious memory. Notice the deliberate errors. The blue bucket was changed to a red bucket. King Zachary's castle was changed to Prince Zachary's palace." A real person, Amy would have instantly corrected those details. She would have said, "Oh, thank you so much for the kind words, but it was actually a blue bucket, and we called it King Zachary's Castle. It's funny the things you remember." It would be an automatic, instinctual correction of her own memory. The impersonator, however, would not have that instinct. Their only knowledge of the event came from the public Instagram post they had just read minutes before. They had no access to the real memory. The trap was set. All Audrey and Amy could do was wait and see if the ghost would walk into it. The response came within an hour. The notification popped up on Audrey's phone. Her heart pounded as she opened the message from Amy J.R. Roloff /real. The reply read, "Thank you so much for remembering that. Yes, that little red bucket meant the world to him. It's so wonderful how you fans have followed our journey and remember these little moments. Prince Zachary's palace was one of my favorite memories. Thank you for your support. Bingo." Audrey took a screenshot. It was the moment the ghost was unmasked. The person behind the account had agreed with every single incorrect detail. They had confirmed the red bucket. They had confirmed Prince Zachary's palace. They had exposed themselves completely. This wasn't Amy Roloff. This was someone who was just watching from this video, someone who only had public knowledge of Amy's life. It was the final, damning piece of evidence they needed. Armed with the IP address data pointing to the farm, and now this screenshot, a digital confession of sorts, Audrey and Amy knew it was time for a confrontation. The web of high-tech deceit, so carefully spun by Caryn in the dark, was about to be torn apart in the light. The digital war for Amy's identity was over, and the real-world reckoning was about to begin. They had the proof, they had the digital fingerprint, and they were going to confront Caryn face to face with her betrayal. The storm that had been brewing in the digital world was about to make landfall on Roloff Farms, and the fallout would be unlike anything the family had ever seen before. The confrontation was inevitable, but the way it unfolded was something no one could have predicted. Amy and Audrey didn't storm the farmhouse with righteous fury. According to our sources, their approach was cold, calculated, and deliberate. They drove to the farm on a weekday afternoon, a time they knew Matt was likely to be out on the property in his mule, and Caryn would be in the house, likely working on her laptop. They parked not in front of the main house, but a little way down the drive, composing themselves before walking to the front door. They were a united front, armed not with anger, but with a folder of printed screenshots and a heavy, unshakable resolve. Caryn answered the door with a surprised but polite smile, a smile that reportedly faltered when she saw the grim expressions on their faces. She invited them in, assuming this was another tense but necessary family discussion about farm business. She was wrong. This wasn't about business, this was a trial. They sat in the living room, the same room where so many family conflicts had played out on camera. But this time there were no cameras, no producers, just the three of them in a space thick with unspoken history. Audrey, taking the lead, placed the folder on the coffee table. She didn't open it yet. She started calmly, her voice level. "Caryn," she began, "we need to talk about Amy's online presence." Caryn allegedly feigned confusion, offering a helpful suggestion. "Oh, is something wrong with her account? You know, I've helped with the farms page before. If she needs any technical help, I'd be happy to." It was a classic deflection, an attempt to position herself as a helpful ally. Audrey cut her off. "We're not talking about her real account. We're talking about the other one. The one called Amy J.R. Roloff /real. Our sources say the color drained from Caryn's face. It was a flicker, a momentary loss of composure, but it was there. She recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Is someone impersonating her? That's awful. We should report it immediately." This was the moment of truth. Amy, who had been silent until now, spoke, her voice trembling slightly but firm. "It is awful, Caryn. It's awful that my daughter-in-law gets a message from me accusing her of betrayal. It's awful that a blogger is told that I was forced off my own land. It's awful that my business partners are being told that I'm arrogant and insulting. With each sentence, Amy's voice grew stronger. Caryn maintained her denial, shaking her head, trying to look sympathetic. Amy, Audrey, I am so sorry this is happening to you, but you can't possibly think that I have anything to do with this. Why would I do that? That's when Audrey opened the folder. The first page she slid across the table was a printout of the direct message sent to Tori. Caryn glanced at it and scoffed. Anyone could have written that. It's a troll. You have so many fans, Amy. Some of them are bound to be unstable. Audrey then slid over the next screenshot, the message to the fan blogger. And this? Caryn waved a dismissive hand. Again, a troubled fan who thinks they know you? Then came the screenshot of the rude message to the small business. Caryn's composure, we're told, began to crack. Her denials became more heated. This is insane. You two come into my house and accuse me of this. This elaborate scheme? It's absurd. It's because you've never accepted me. You've always looked for a reason to hate me, and now you're inventing one. The gaslighting was in full effect. She was turning their accusation into an attack on her, painting herself as the victim of their long-standing jealousy. But Audrey had one more card to play, the final screenshot. She placed it in front of Caryn, a printout of the direct message conversation about the trip to the coast. Read this, Caryn. Caryn scanned the words, her eyes darting back and forth. She saw the mention of the red bucket of Prince Zachary's palace. She looked up, her face a mask of confusion. So, it's just a fan talking about a memory. Audrey's voice was like ice. No, Caryn, it's a fan testing a theory, a fan who deliberately got the details wrong. The bucket was blue. The castle was King Zachary's castle, and the person pretending to be Amy agreed with every single mistake. The person who wrote this response proved they have no access to Amy's actual memories. They only know what they've read online. Silence. According to our insider, the air in the room was so thick you could feel the weight of it. Caryn stared at the paper, the words blurring in front of her. The trap had been sprung, and she had walked right into it. Her denial sputtered. It's a coincidence. Maybe Amy misremembered. It was a weak, desperate grasp for a defense that wasn't there. Amy finally broke the silence, her voice filled with a profound sadness. I would never misremember that day, Caryn. Never. Just as the weight of the accusation was settling, the front door opened. It was Matt. He walked in, cheerful from his work outside, his smile vanishing as he took in the scene. 3 women, frozen in a tableau of accusation and shock. What in the world is going on in here? He asked, his eyes darting from a pale Caryn to a stern Audrey and a tearful Amy. What happened next, we are told, was the moment the final, irreparable schism in the Roloff family was forged. Caryn, seeing her protector, burst into tears. She ran to Matt, sobbing, "They're accusing me of horrible things, Matt. They're saying I've been pretending to be Amy online to hurt her. They're making it all up." Matt immediately wrapped his arms around her, turning to Amy and Audrey with a look of thunderous rage. "What is this? What are you doing, harassing her in her own home?" Audrey stood her ground. "We're not harassing her, Matt. We're confronting her with proof." She tried to show him the folder, the screenshots, and the irrefutable evidence. Matt wouldn't even look at it. He pushed the folder away. "I don't want to see your manufactured evidence. This is a witch hunt. You two have been against Caryn from day one, and you'll do anything to drive her away." Amy stepped forward, her heart breaking. "Matt, please, just listen. Look at the proof. She sent messages to Tori, to fans, to businesses." Matt cut her off, his voice rising. "I don't believe it. Caryn would never do that. She loves this family." Amy's voice cracked. "Does she, Matt? Does she love this family?" Audrey, ever the pragmatist, tried one last time with the technical data. "Matt, it's not just the messages. The account was created from an IP address that traces back to a satellite internet provider, the same kind of provider that serves this farm. The odds of that being a coincidence are astronomical. Matt laughed, a bitter, angry sound. An IP address? That's your smoking gun? Do you know how many people have used the Wi-Fi here? Workers, guests, anyone could have done it and made it look like it came from here. You're reaching because you want this to be true. You want to destroy our happiness. The battle lines were drawn. It was no longer about evidence or truth. It was about loyalty. And Matt's loyalty was unequivocally with Caryn. He saw this not as an investigation into a serious betrayal, but as a personal attack on his partner and, by extension, on him. He ordered Amy and Audrey out of the house. The confrontation was over. There was no confession, no apology, only deeper wounds and a chasm that was now too wide to cross. As Amy and Audrey drove away from the farm in stunned silence, a significant event happened back in the digital world. The Amy J.R. Roloff real account, the digital ghost that had caused so much chaos, vanished. It was deleted. All of its posts, comments, and messages were gone, wiped clean from the internet. It was a silent, desperate act of cleaning up a crime scene. For Amy and Audrey, it was the only confession they were ever going to get. The immediate aftermath was a deafening silence. The family, already fractured, shattered into opposing camps. On one side stood Matt and Caryn, isolated in their farmhouse, clinging to a narrative of victimhood and persecution. On the other side stood Amy, and soon her children. When Audrey and Amy relayed the story to Zach and Jeremy, the reaction was reportedly explosive. Zach, who already had a deeply strained relationship with his father and Caryn, was furious but not surprised. For him, this was just confirmation of what he had long suspected, that Caryn's influence was a destructive force in their family. The strange DM he and Tori had questioned now made perfect, sickening sense. It explained the undercurrent of manipulation they had been feeling for years. Jeremy, fiercely protective of Audrey and his mother, was equally appalled. The digital deception was a level of betrayal he couldn't comprehend. This incident, this but deeply detailed report from our sources, is the secret key that unlocks the current state of the Roloff family. It explains the almost total lack of communication between the brothers and their father. It explains the awkward, tense body language you see in any group photos that are forced to happen. It reframes the entire narrative of the farm sale. It wasn't just about money. It was about a fundamental, catastrophic breakdown of trust. How could Zach or Jeremy ever consider buying into a property, a family legacy that was co-owned by a woman they believed had orchestrated a malicious campaign to destroy their mother's reputation? The farm was no longer just land and a business. It was the scene of the crime. And what about Caryn? After the initial confrontation, her strategy had to shift. Publicly, she could say nothing. Any statement would draw attention to the accusations. But privately, she doubled down on her victim status to Matt, convincing him that his family was conspiring against them. And online, her own real social media presence reportedly underwent a subtle change. She began posting more photos with Matt, more captions about their unshakable love and partnership, about being a team against the world. It was a PR campaign directed at an audience of one, Matt Roloff. She had to reinforce his belief that she was the one he could trust, that everyone else was the enemy. Meanwhile, Amy was left to pick up the pieces. She had the truth, but what could she do with it? Going public with the story would lead to a vicious, messy media storm. It would be her word against Caryn's, and she knew Matt would publicly defend Caryn at all costs. It would force fans to choose sides, and it would undoubtedly hurt the show that was still a major part of her life. So she chose to remain silent, carrying the heavy burden of the truth. She had to quietly reach out to the business owner who had snubbed her, offering a confusing apology for a misunderstanding from an impersonator. an explanation that likely sounded weak and strange without the full context. She had to mend the subtle damage done to her relationship with Tori, reassuring her that the hurtful words were not her own. She had to live with the knowledge that the woman living in her old house with her ex-husband had tried to systematically dismantle her life. In the months and years that have followed, this digital ghost incident has continued to cast a long, dark shadow. We're now hearing from sources that this may not have been an isolated event. Questions are being raised about whether this was the first time such a tactic was used. Were there other anonymous accounts in the past leaving negative comments on fan pages, subtly shaping the narrative against Amy that could now be re-examined? Was this a one-time act of desperation, or was it part of a longer, more sophisticated campaign to seize control of the Roloff family narrative and legacy? This is the exclusive theory now being explored in the inner circles, that the impersonation of Amy was simply the most brazen move in a long game of psychological warfare. The goal, according to this theory, was never just to hurt Amy's feelings. The goal was to make her appear so erratic, so unstable, and so difficult that Matt's children would finally give up on her, give up on the farm, and leave Matt and Caryn to rule the empire unchallenged. If you make the matriarch seem crazy, you invalidate her claim to the family legacy. It's a chilling Machiavellian strategy that almost worked. You can see the fallout even now in recent developments. Look at the way family events are structured. Separate birthday parties for the grandkids. Holiday gatherings that are carefully segregated. When the family does have to film together for the show, insiders describe the atmosphere on set as glacial. The conversations are stilted, the interactions are for the cameras only. As soon as the director yells cut, they retreat to their separate corners. The trust is gone. This digital betrayal was the point of no return. It's one thing to argue about the price of land. It's another thing entirely to have someone steal your identity, wear your face like a mask, and use your voice to poison your relationships with your own children. This report forces us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about the tensions within the Roloff family. The arguments we see on television are merely the surface ripples of a much deeper, darker conflict. A conflict that was fought with IP addresses and fake profiles, with carefully crafted messages designed to inflict the maximum emotional damage. Caryn Chandler may have deleted the digital ghost, but its haunting presence remains. It lingers in the empty spaces between family members, in the conversations that no longer happen, in the trust that can never be rebuilt. The Roloff family legacy has been permanently scarred, not by a tractor or a business dispute, but by a high-tech web of deceit spun in the quiet darkness of the Oregon night. The ultimate question that remains is not whether Caryn did it. For those in the family who have seen the evidence, that question has been answered. The ultimate question is whether the family can ever, in any way, recover from a betrayal so personal, so modern, and so profoundly damaging. Based on everything we are seeing and hearing, the answer to that question appears to be a definitive and heartbreaking no. The digital ghost may be gone, but the damage it left behind is all too real, and it is permanent.